Valkenberg Hospital is synonymous with high-profile criminal cases in South Africa. The forensics team at the hospital is responsible for evaluating people who use mental illness as a defense for committing a crime and housing people who are unfit to stand trial.
Sometimes there are exceptional cases where there's constant media attention on us, and we sometimes have to do things we don't usually do. So, you all remember the Dewani case? Cases like that, where there's an unusual amount of attention, we sometimes have to modify what we do, but as a rule, not really. We just have our set sort of procedures and we follow them.
Many people have prejudice towards mental illness and people living with mental illness. So there's often a lot of fear about Valkenberg and what Valkenberg represents. I think sometimes there's the perception that you come to Valkenberg and you never leave. In actual fact, in our acute service, we have no long stay wards any longer. So with modern medicine and modern psychiatry, patients mostly recover fairly quickly. And so gone are the days where you came to Valkenberg and you never left.
The hospital is celebrating its 125th anniversary this year. Its original building, which was previously abandoned, has just been refurbished and is used as the new administration building. During the refurbishment, artifacts from the past century were found.
When Valkenberg was opened in 1891, all they could really do was offer a place of sanctuary. In fact, the original word for a psychiatric hospital is asylum. And what does asylum mean? It just means a refuge where there's tranquility away from the hurly-burly of life. And it was really assumed that was the only way to really treat people humanely with psychiatric illness, was to offer them some sort of tranquility. As the sort of 20th century progressed, all sorts of really strange methods of treatment were tried because they didn't have drugs. So they used to immerse people in huge, big bowls of hot water to calm them down. They used to put them in the seclusion room that you saw downstairs, the padded room with a straitjacket, tie them up. Throughout the 20th century, for at least the first half, the hospital was overcrowded, they had inadequate, strange therapies which didn't work, and right about the 1950s, the first psychiatric drugs came onto the market. The first drug was chlorpromazine, which was for people who were psychotic, and then towards the late 1950s, they started introducing the new first antidepressants. And that caused a revolution, because suddenly people who were cooped up in these hospitals could now be released and discharged into the community, and many were. But from that time onwards, the momentum had started where the idea that being in a psychiatric hospital was an abuse of human rights, it was inhumane, the conditions were awful, and throughout the 60s and 70s there was a deinstitutionalization movement to close down psychiatric hospitals. So in the 1960s there were 2,000 patients in this hospital at least at any one time, 2,000 patients, and we were on two campuses. There was on this observatory side, then on the other side of the Black River there were lots and lots of wards. And in fact, when I started here in 1988, there was a strict divide according to race as well. So patients of color were on that side, on the other side of the Black River. White patients were on this side, and of course there was a huge disparity in the level of care and the comfort and hygienic conditions from the two groups. So around about the 1990s, we started to close down a lot of the wards, like around the world. And we shrunk down to what is now sort of 350 beds, of which 160 beds are forensic beds. So the hospital in the old days used to contain people who'd been here for years. Some people had been admitted here after birth because they were illegitimate, or they'd just engaged in socially unacceptable behaviors. If you look at the original sort of admission documents, people were admitted for things like masturbation, melancholy due to financial loss, all sorts of socially unacceptable behaviors, and they spent their lives here. So round about the 1990s there was this change. And of course with the advent of democracy in this country, we integrated the hospital and we moved strictly to this side of the hospital.
I think there are a couple of important points to make. The first point is that just because you have a mental illness doesn't mean that you will be violent and dangerous and a criminal. As I said, 1 in 4 people suffer from a severe or serious mental illness, and a minority will commit crimes or be aggressive or be violent. I think that it's inevitable that we will get focus of attention if we have a high-profile case here for observation or for admission.
Stigmas around mental health continues to be a challenge in South Africa.